You are now listening to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. And this is your best friend's best friend, Chidozie Okafor, ready to take you on another journey. Are you with me? Because I'm ready. Let's get it. In this episode, we bring the remaining fellas back from season 1, Paul, Ant, and Dorian, and talk about their experiences post being on the podcast. We spend a great deal of time answering several of your questions and going deep on topics that you wanted us to hit, such as dating someone who has had sex with one of your friends, the appropriate time to date and get to know someone before you make it official, what it means to be a father, and navigating how to support your partner as a wife, a mother, and a professional. What's good, everyone? This is Chidozie. I'm here with the guys from season 1, the other half of it. I got Paul. Say what's up, Paul.
What's going on, people?
I got Dorian.
What's going on?
And Ant.
How you doing, fellas?
Ant over here trying to bring his sexy voice on like he's not married.
Look, man, I sounded horrible on the first. No, I'm just kidding.
And so, like promised, I want to bring all the guys back just to talk about the different things that different listeners wanted to hear about, want us to go deeper on. So we just want to give that opportunity to engage with our listeners and share more of our perspective. And so, first of all, really wanted to talk about any feedback you guys have received in terms of people hearing you guys on the podcast, things that was said, hearing your own voice. You know, what were your thoughts on that?
Feedback, that I've gotten, at least from my episodes, it's been good. And the podcast as a whole. But overall, I think people like the dialogue, and I think I got more feedback from women than I did men. Or questions, or follow-up questions.
Or some of the follow-up questions you got.
Now, granted, this was a while ago when my episodes aired, but I made some comments about my wife running the show, and then I step in when it needs to be, and they were like, "How does that work?" I was like, "Fine, it works fine." That's how our life has been, and that's how it works. She runs the money, and where I need to be, I do it, and I guess that didn't. I don't know. I guess that doesn't relate for everybody. So, but whatever. To each its own. Everybody's marriage doesn't have to be built exactly the same way, and I think that's something that you should be able to take away from all the guys that have been talking. Is everybody's life is run differently, and everybody's situation is different, and how they met is different, and so it doesn't have to be the same thing to get to the same result.
That's real. What about you, Dorian?
I would say a lot of people were probably just surprised about the Houston story. Like, man, that really happened? Like, yeah, it
Classic.
did. Man.
We're going to talk about that a little later.
Yeah, but, man, it was good feedback. It was just, I think a lot of people were just like, man, it's good to hear a different perspective of, somebody that was active and then decided to save themselves from marriage and, what that dynamic looked like. So, but all in all, it was good feedback.
What about you, Ant?
Yeah, generally the feedback was pretty good. I think a lot of people were just interested in my perspective on our relationship, but then also just kind of learning how me and my wife got together, because I don't think a lot of people knew, or they just assumed that we were together for a very, very long time before we got married. So, overall the feedback's been pretty good.
Got it. And so, every relationship not being perfect, every podcast not being perfect, I forgot to do the toast that we normally do. And so before we get too far in, I want to make sure that we do a toast. And I'm glad, I appreciate you guys for making time to come. So for this, I want to do a toast to brotherhood, the lessons that you learn from it, and the trials that are saved from that knowledge. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
So let's just get into it. I'm always curious, what people continue to tell me, oh, you should have women talk on it, and, we want to hear what the wives got to say. And I'm like, this is not for you. And so to provide a glimpse to that, was there anything that you guys said or you guys talked about that your wives heard that had a certain reaction after she heard it, and it stimulated or sparked a conversation in the household?
Well, my wife accused me of not...
Accused is strong.
Accused me of sugarcoating and not going all the way in, or being, I guess, 100% open or whatnot. I don't know. I think you have a natural desire to protect your relationship. And so it's like, we want to be open. I want to be transparent. I want people to learn from, my episode as well as everybody else that did theirs. But that don't mean you need to know 100% of my business. You know what I'm saying?
No, totally. So, I try to protect your privacy.
Right. And so she brought that up, and, I thought you'd be truthful. I was like, I was truthful. I thought you were going to go further. I was like, maybe if there's a follow-up episode, maybe I'll go a little further then, since you said...
I got the green light.
Yeah, I was like, since you brought it up, maybe. But, I mean, the trials and tribulations, all those things are real, but that doesn't mean you need to know everything that transpired through that. Yeah. But you can still learn from the existence of the trial or all those types of things. So, she brought that up to me. It didn't move my spirit to, go further necessarily, but we'll see how the dialogue goes today. Yeah, we'll see how the dialogue goes today. Maybe I will.
Some of the conversation I had with your wife, there was a particular point where I think you mentioned something about fellas, some helpful advice. Fellas, just make sure you wash the bottles. No questions asked. Mm-hmm. So I feel like from my conversation with her, there was something that led to that nugget that you developed over time.
Yeah. So like the impetus of that was, my wife had a baby. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's always something happening. And bottles for babies to drink from is a big thing, right? Babies are drinking, especially when they transition from breastfeeding, if somebody does that. And you need a bunch of bottles, and they need to be clean. And it would just literally pass by my mind, right? I wouldn't think about it. It wouldn't pop up. Wouldn't, And she was like, did you wash the bottles? I was like, I forgot. Well, the baby needs to eat now. Oh, okay. Right. And all this stuff. And
it ain't like mowing the lawn.
Yeah, it's not like mowing the lawn. This is a daily thing, and sometimes twice a day, just depending on what's going on. And so, like, it took me a while to, like, get that ingrained of, all right, if I'm here, go wash some bottles. I can't do it if I'm not there, but, and it's small tasks that is ridiculously helpful. But sometimes everybody gets caught in their own mind space or gets caught in their day and determines that other things are more important. And sometimes those little things can just, add up and, take the stress away from the situation. And yeah, she got on me multiple times about bottles. And so that was my advice.
She trapped you in the pantry?
Yeah, trapped me in the pantry. And, that's why you always got to have two exit routes. But, it took me a while to get onto it and figure that out. And so, future fathers that are coming up along, I already made the mistake. You don't have to do it twice. I already did it.
That's what the toast was about.
Yeah, I already learned it. I was like, if you listen to the podcast, take that one with you. I already did it. I already failed. Just be helpful.
It's the road to recovery. And do you is that something you resonate with you? Because you have a young one too.
I mean, bottles are a serious thing, during that time. So I can appreciate that, but I didn't let that slip through cracks in my end.
You knew better.
Thank you, Anthony, for that bus.
So okay, that was you. What about you, Dorian? Anything that your wife, afterwards, like, Dorian, let's talk.
No, it wasn't really nothing that, like, let's talk. I think she just made one point, like, when I was, like, when we were planning the wedding, I was unemployed at that time. Mm-hmm. But on what I didn't really go deep into is, I was actually helping a lot with the remodel, doing a lot of kind of coming up with everything for the remodel. And she was just like, felt like you didn't really give yourself enough credit for like certain, like, yeah, you might not have been working, but you were handling a lot of things for the wedding as well as the remodel. So
she's like, I didn't marry a bum. He was doing something.
He was doing something. So like that was her thing. Like, you don't give yourself enough credit.
Gotcha. Cool. And what about you, Ant?
I mean, I always ask my wife now, but I've asked her a few times kind of what her perspective was or if she had any comments. And for her, it was just interesting to hear, my perspective of how we got to where we are now. So that tells me, I guess, one or two things, that either she liked everything I had to say, or she probably has a different take on certain aspects of it, though. But we just, for whatever reasons, we haven't been able to really get into the nitty gritty. But overall, I mean, I know if she had problems, she would have told me. So it's just been, it's been an interesting process, I think, for me, just to go through it and get it out there and have something that's there that we can listen to, and hopefully spark conversations down the line. So
cool. And so the major point of this episode and these episodes that we're doing in part 2 is really to allow the listeners to engage. A lot of people had different responses, questions. They want us to go deeper on certain topics. And so this is that opportunity for them to do that. And so I'm really just going to go through some of the questions and responses people had and just hope that we chop it up like we normally chop up things. And so the first one was around, a couple people asked me, and these were guys, how would you guys react to meeting someone that smashed or had sex with one of your friends?
Like I'm trying to date them or something like that? Or
possibility?
Like now,
or are you talking about
like back in the yesteryears?
Yeah.
Give it your maturity as a
which time frame are we discussing here?
Given your maturity as a
now it don't matter at all.
as a married man, if you were like what you know now, let's say you were single, what you know now, just how life works, relationship works, and you were dating and you came across a woman that had relations with a friend of yours, would that stop you from seeing where that could go, or would it be like you don't care? Like, what's your? Cause I think there's in this world where it feels like, especially from like a black educated standpoint, it's just like circles are very small, and so I think people come across that and they're trying to figure like, how should I feel about that?
I don't know if it would bother me as much. I think as I've gotten older, from the yesteryears to I guess prior to meeting my wife, in that time frame, everybody has a past, everybody has history, and I have my own as well. And so to shut off an opportunity because of that, now obviously I'm gonna have some questions and some follow-up questions. Like if this was last week, it's like, but it's like,
you saw us at the Christmas party together.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah. Y'all met freshman year of college, had a thing, and we're 7 years removed from that. Like, I feel like that's immature on my part to hold something that far back. I'm gonna have some follow-up questions, but I got to the point where I can't judge somebody else's past when I have my own. That's what it was for me. But I will ask questions just for clarification at that point of my life. I've been retired a long time, so
Yeah, no, it ain't like this is not like the other session. Like, just talk. Like, just feel free to interject how you want to.
One, I think it depends on like that level of that friendship. Like, is this just somebody I know, or just like my brother?
Boy.
Yeah. But like if it's something like my brother, and like nah, I'm not doing that. But if it's just somebody I know, and to Paul's point, like it depends on like, was this yesterday or was this like years ago? Like, if it was years ago, like
it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So, but how do you, on the flip side of that, we all, well, I'm still dating, but y'all dated before, and women, I say this generally, their friend zones expand for like different reasons, and so they tend to be like, oh, I told such and such that I liked you, so you're off limits to people. Mm-hmm. For women that are listening to this and have that kind of mentality, like, I can't deal with this guy because he had, he dated my friend or such and such. Like, was that frustrating for you guys when you came across that? And what's your advice for that when it's flipped?
I mean, like, I'm from, like, when I went to college, like, the black community was real small. So, like, it was really hard for you to find somebody that was not connected to somebody. So it's like,
it's part of life.
Yeah, it was what it was. Like,
And then, I think there's also a difference between, a friend of yours that was in a relationship with somebody for a while.
Yeah.
And a friend of yours that they had this little situation and then it was done. There's a difference between that.
Yeah.
Right? Emotions add a level to all relationships. If my man was with this young lady for 3 years, no matter probably how long that gap was, she's off limits. Period. Right? But if it's just like, yeah, man, I met her in Mexico one time and found out she went to the school too. You know, that's just not the same situation. So I think a lot of that stuff matters, but I don't think it should be just a straight up non-starter just because.
And I think it's the key. I mean, what do you think, Ant?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I would agree or echo everything everybody said. It really depends on the situation. I mean, if it was a one night kind of thing a couple years ago, a couple months ago, there's no emotional attachment, then, you know, if you see potential in that relationship, definitely I think it's worth giving it a shot. But yeah, if it's a good friend of yours and he had a relationship with the girl, that's pretty much kind of be off limits, I think. But and it depends on what stage you're at in life. If you're 21 years old versus, 35, 36, I think you can accept those things. You understand that everybody has a little bit of baggage at whatever point that you come in life, and it's kind of what's your tolerance to accept that stuff and be secure moving forward with yourself and whoever you're with. So it's not a clean cut answer, but definitely wouldn't shut down the opportunity just because.
Yeah, and I don't think it's ever clean cut. First of all, apologies. We got dads here on daddy duty, so if you hear a little crying in the back, the nephew's here running around, and we'll be going back and forth taking care of that thing, taking care of him. But I think it's important that both of you guys said it was that. Why are you guys laughing?
Take care of that
Because you called him a thing.
I don't have a kid yet, so it's like, I know it's a human, but it's like an issue. We got to resolve that matter. How minds change once you have children. I don't have one yet, but I think the key point was it's not a non-starter for you proceeding. Like, there may be questions you want to know, things you want to find out more details before you just dead it. And I'm curious because I was in a relationship almost 2 years, and it ended. And so I was, met a young lady, and she was like, she feels weird because, she's friends with my ex. And I'm like, you're not friends with my ex. She's like, we're friends. I'm like, I've been with my ex for 2 years. You ain't been invited to nobody's birthday. Y'all Instagram friends. But she was like, nah, I feel weird because we see each other, we say hello. I'm like, y'all not friends. Like, you will not be invited to her wedding. I promise you that. And so it's just interesting to see how, the different spans of friendship, people take those to be boundaries or whatnot for whether they will entertain someone or get to know someone or not. And so it's just interesting to hear that. I'm glad someone raised that because that's something that I've encountered recently as well. Another point that came up that as we were doing a lot of the contextual, I would say, understanding of where you guys have come from and been was several women have wanted to understand, how long did you get to know or date your now partner before you guys made it official? Because, there's always that we met, we're hanging out, we're getting to know each other, period of time before you say, hey, this is me and you, we're officially dating. And that's way before you get engaged. And so for context, the people that wanted to know, how long were you guys in that limbo, we're just getting to know each other, nothing official yet, before you guys made it official?
We were probably a year and a half. Well, a year and a half of friends, I guess, teetering in that world of, what are we doing here?
What does teetering mean?
Like doing more things one-on-one versus like in group settings.
Gotcha.
And then becoming official. It was probably, I would say probably 2 months. She may say 1, maybe. I would say probably 2 months.
Post the teetering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, of the teetering. December and January, but we have been friends for a while.
So it wasn't like I literally met you today. 2 months. So you already knew her. You guys have hung out for a while. You guys, you were getting to know her indirectly without,
right.
Yeah.
And then I'd say 2 months of kind of the teetering, but we have been friends for like a solid year and some change prior to the teetering. And then like 2 months of maybe that, and then moving on into, where we are now.
What about the rest of y'all?
I say, so for us, it was like we met and then, I say about 2 months. Yeah, about 2 months.
Yeah,
then
you
we
guys
was
are killing me with these 2 months.
He said the game is strong over here.
Yeah,
we met and it was here.
You guys are killing me with these 2 months. Now these people think, it take 2 months, if you want to do this for real or not.
Well, no.
It ain't going to be shorter.
Okay, go ahead, Ed. Go ahead.
Nah, it's hard to like quantify. So me and my wife have only known each other for a little like 4.5 years at this point. Maybe not even that long. Over 4 years, but I think we talked about this in the first.
We talked about it a little bit, but I'm trying to understand from at what point, and maybe you guys have to, well, I don't want to get you in trouble, but I'm trying to understand at what point, because everybody got things they got going on. At what point when you met her and or like looking at her as a potential romantic interest, from that point to like I'm cutting off all these other chicks, like we gonna do this. Like how long did that take? Like I take this, I want to take you seriously and see where this could go. Like what was that period of time like?
So I was in semi-retirement leading up to it, and so I was kind of already just.
How you in semi-retirement?
There's no such thing.
Here's the thing. Well, like I got
you Jason Witten. I retired for a year and I'm coming back.
Exactly right. Exactly.
So you retired and then you came out of retirement.
Semi-retirement.
This looks fun.
I was like, I'll chill, and then I was like, but you still got the shot. But no, so like. I wasn't like leading up to my wife and I getting together. Like I wasn't just going on this, collection of dates and all this. And so I wasn't like out there like that at that point. Yeah. And that could just be coincidence. I don't remember all the details of that. That was 10 years ago. So it wasn't like I had to go cut this roster because I was just kind of chilling in my own space at that time. And so I was good. And then that one
you wasn't like, I'm going to the club to go pull it.
Nah.
But I was going things came your way. Yeah.
I was going to the club with the group, and if somebody bumped into me, you bumped into me. I wasn't looking for you. You bumped into me. I was minding my business. And I was just chilling.
Got it.
Minding my business.
So I think the time period in which you get to that decision, I mean, it's hard to quantify, and I don't even know if it's that important, but it is. No,
but man, you can like time, count the days.
For people that are listening, I mean, I think it's more of like, all right, when you're in it, there's a process that you go through, and I think that process is relatively short. Meaning, like you're like, all right, you make a decision, and then you're like, all right, well, it's either this or it's going to be that. So I'm going to continue doing. Exploring other options, or I'm going to commit myself to this one person and see where it goes. And I think when you make that decision, it's like you wake up and just say, all right, this is how I'm going to do it, and you cut everybody off. But the period of time that leads up to that, I mean, it's hard because it changes.
I recognize it varies for everybody. I was just trying to understand yours.
But I'm just trying to think back and like. Really think about it, and it was probably a couple months. I mean, definitely was a couple months, but I mean, I don't even know. Probably around 2 or 3 months.
All right, it's cool. Yeah. Your answer, not mine.
See, now all the women that listen to podcasts are gonna put this 2 months.
2 months. Yeah, 2 months. Like, you should know in 2 months. I'm like, it always works.
Sorry,
like
fellas, that wasn't the intent.
But again,
we'll continue to ask other guys that question. We need a complete sample size of 30 before it is statistically valid.
I think. All right, so this, I would see if you guys would agree or disagree. If you're in a relationship and you can't get to that point, and it's been more than 6 months. Then I think from a guy's perspective, you're literally, I mean, you're just exploring other options. You're not mentally in the space where you're in a position to be like, I want something that's going to be long term, and you might just be exploring your options, and that's not a bad,
that's not a bad
thing.
Yeah, if you're teetering for 6 months, there's probably a decision that was made.
Yeah,
and it's cool. Yeah, and that's fine.
I would say either I'm not an expert. I haven't made it to where they're at. I would say either there's decision has already been made and you're enjoying the environment you're in, or you haven't seen enough to get you over whatever hump you've gotten. So you're like, whatever.
That's the same thing.
You've seen exactly.
Yeah, you seen exactly. You saw it. You just decided that you was gonna chill for a little bit longer.
Nephew, what's going on? Come on, we recording. Sorry.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your introduction.
Come here, buddy.
He's crying. Ah, man. I apologize. I apologize. I'm about to edit all of this.
No, this is real life.
Yeah, man. Leave it in, bro.
This is daddy daycare on the podcast.
Real life.
This is the result of the 2 month process.
This is the 2 month process.
Fellas, this is what happens when you take 2 months and you deal with crying
if you
babies.
take 6, you won't have this issue. But if you take 2,
now if you take 6, you should be going on 12 and then 18, 24. All right, cool, got it. And I appreciate you because I'm trying to speak from the bless you. Cover your mouth, son. Cover your mouth. I'm trying to speak from the perspective of single people, not just mine, but people that I know and that I see and that I've heard. And so we'll keep going. You all have had, I would say, interesting perspectives on like what being head of the household means, and I think that term, whether it's running the household, being the leader, head of the household, is often triggering, especially to women. And I've gotten specific feedback from my. I appreciate y'all, all my female listeners up in the Northeast corridor, which I call it in Boston, New England area. It's been triggering for y'all because they say, well, why are you always talking about running the household and head of the household and cooking and all this stuff? And so I wanted to take some time to go deeper on it to really get y'all's perspective on, what does it mean to be head of the household? Does that mean like your wife don't have a say? Does it mean that, that you run the show? Does it mean that you're making the most sacrifices? Because I think that word is one of those specific words, but it means a lot of things and it can vary for different folks. And so just want to get y'all's thoughts on, as you guys are doing marriage now, you guys are in it. What does that mean, and does it change when you have kids and all that?
I would say for me, like, we try to look at things from a biblical standpoint, and that was kind of, how it's written. But in the
how is it written for those that don't have Bibles or not familiar with it?
To be in alignment is the man is connected to God, the woman is connected to the man, the children are connected to the wife, and as a head of house, as the man, is your responsibility to lead your household. But in the same sense, also recognize that I have strengths and she has strengths. One of her strengths, she might, she, for most part, takes care of, a lot of the finances. That's a strength of hers. But, with that strength, I always have input. And if there's some I have a strength in, she has input. So it's like a give and take for both of us. Like, it's just recognizing where one person is stronger and the other person is weaker. That's where the other person comes in and steps up. But, if I make a decision, she's always going to follow through with it and, take whatever I say as, well, not really whatever I say, but, she's going to have
she's going to support you.
Yeah, she's going to support me whatever decision we make. So
that makes sense and totally understand that. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, both me and my wife were athletes, and I think we take I think I talked about it a little bit. It's a partnership, but it's a team, and we always talk about kind of being a team. And sometimes one person is stronger in different aspects in whatever sport you want to play. I won't use too many sports analogies, but there are aspects of our relationship or the household where I feel like I want to take, for whatever reasons, that either that's my strength or I've had more experience or I just really strongly believe this is the right decision that needs to be made, especially when there are kids involved or, whether it's finances, whether it's planning a vacation, whether it's where your kid's going to go to school or daycare or just maneuvering around the day to day. Sometimes like my wife has her strengths and I lean on her to get things done. She leans on me to get things done. We always kind of communicate about things, and then we can either make decisions together. And if there is a contention, I think we both trust that she trusts me that I'm going to be making the right decision, and vice versa. So that's the way that we do it. And I know I have friends or even family, especially. And we talk. I don't know if we talked about it, but like the Caribbean kind of culture. I mean, I think that the man is traditionally the head of the household. In many ways, and your decision as the father is final, regardless if it's right or wrong. That's something that I didn't want to bring in to our household because I just don't think that it's not the most. I don't think it's the best way to get the best outcome for your family. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong for people who choose to do it that way, but I think it's just like work. You want to have a diversity of opinions, a diversity of experiences, and it can only make our family better. So,
hold on, nephew. You said you wanted to say something. I didn't hear you.
You got something to say?
Oh, now you want to be quiet.
Yeah, okay,
cool. I'm glad you brought in like the Haitian dynamic of it, because I think what do you call it? West Indies, Caribbean, West African, a lot of those familial constructs are very similar, and so I try to find like where's that happy medium, because I've seen a situation that works, and I've also seen aspects of it that like is probably not as productive, so I wouldn't want to incorporate. But for me, it's like, I think, fellas, you guys are married. I don't have all the answers, but I think 80% of the time, like there's a clear probably delineation between, hey, this is where I'm strong at, and she trusts me. This is where he's strong at, or she's strong at, I trust her. And then there's 20% where whether you both are strong at that or you both have very firm beliefs on like how you want to do it, and you disagree. And that navigation of it, like I struggle with like, what do you do there? Because where I come from, it's like at the end of the day, we're a team. You trust me to be the leader and lead this family in a certain direction. We may fundamentally disagree about this, one of the few things we do, but we got to make a call. And so is it something that you make a call and your wife just has your back, or is it something that you make a call and y'all beef about it and then you'll get over? Like, how does that work for that 20% of the things where y'all fundamentally disagree, but like you gotta do something?
I mean, to tag along and it boils down to trust. I mean, I would be interested to hear you bring up that New England section of the country that some of the women were asking about, or had questions about like what is their definition of head of household? Because I think there's this like connotation that head of household means one person makes all the decisions and the other person is
just sitting there.
Yeah, just sitting there doing nothing.
Like a dictator.
Right. Yeah. And one, that's not marriage.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic.
Not at all.
And so, by somebody being a head of household doesn't mean it could literally be a 51%, 49%, from a decision, or however you want to classify it. And it's just my strengths are my strengths, your strengths are your strengths. Together we make a great team, and I may be the face of the franchise. Therefore, that makes me the head. Right? It could be as simple as that. But I think everybody here and everybody I was hearing on it's a teamwork. It's something that they're working at together. And if you're not working at marriage together, then it's not going to go well. And that's going to be true regardless, especially when you start to add kids into the mix. Like this little crazy guy who's trying his best to be the star of the episode. But that is, for me, head of household is just a title that has been thrown out there, but I don't think the definition suits how lives and how marriages are operating. I don't think it fits. It's a tax filing status.
Pretty much.
It's a tax filing status.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, I think that if you're in a relationship or a marriage and you feel like, as long as if you're not feeling like you don't have a say, like I would be curious to see, what situations. You might want to edit part of this out, but let's go. I'm curious on what people's perspectives are, like Paul said, just because, I think in most relationships that I've seen or marriages, like everybody has their strength, everyone has their strengths, and you see other people make decisions, or you don't necessarily see it. But if your opinion is being like depressed, or you don't have a say, or if that is like the understanding of the relationship, that's something completely different. And I don't necessarily even think that's head of household. That's just, that's a whole different podcast.
That's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah. I agree, and this is, I do this because I think it's helpful for other people, but it's also helpful for me. So check me and my beliefs and how I'm navigating, because I want to get to where you guys are at some point. But I think that the word and the term is very triggering, because to the points that you guys mentioned of what people think, like, oh, why you got to get to say what we're gonna do, And I think the reality of it is that it doesn't work that way. You know, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so do you think that word is triggering like just more nowadays? Because it seems like everything's just so hypersensitive.
Definitely, everything in this world is hypersensitive.
Well, I think historically, non-biblically, historically, the head of the household thing and man being the head of the household was the man was working and the wife was staying at home with the kids. Old school, right?
Yeah.
Old school. And now that's not necessarily true. I'd say especially like in the black community.
And the situations that people are in are very different. Like if you look at, 50 years ago, every case is probably very similar. The guy works, the woman's at home taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
Now there's so much diversity in what everybody's relationship looks like, whether the wife works, the guy doesn't work, or vice versa, what have you, right? My perspective is that at the end of the day, you're trying to build a team, right? And so you're trying to build a team where, you trust the person to be able to, I think, Brandon said in another podcast, like, if I'm not around, they can handle it, and vice versa. And you want to find someone that's in alignment to how you traditionally, most things considered, y'all think about things the same way, or you have an appreciation about the way that person thinks about it. So that when decisions are being made or you're going about things, that it's happening in a way that you will be satisfied or content with. My stake on being the head of the household means that, like, at the end of the day, it's like me having a deliverable at work. All these other things that are very critical to submitting that deliverable are very important. Probably more important than my actual role. But at the end of the day, I'm submitting it. And so it's going to have my name on it. So there's a level of accountability that I have to it. And I take my relationships and I will take, my marriage the same way. And so I want to be able to, in putting together the best deliverable, I'm going to get your understanding. I want to get your understanding and get your opinion about it to understand what am I missing. I don't want no drama in my relationship. So I'm not going to just do something frivolous to piss you off. And so all those things are being factored into what is the best decision for the household in that 20% where you guys don't agree or it's not either one of y'all's strengths. And I think when we say head of the household, I primarily think about it in that lane of that 20% versus I think people tend to be triggered by like it's every day, this person says it and I got to do it. And I think, no, like even if we disagree, I want to hear your perspective on it.
One thing, and also there's this connection of the person that makes the most money is the head of the household, right? And so historically, as you've kind of moved through, pick a year back in the day up until now, you have...
That's the man.
Yeah. You have women that are doing very well professionally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Very well. Outpacing men in some industries, depending
especially
on the
nowadays,
industry.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you have these women that are coming in that are making, pick a number, doing very well, and their husband's not being at that level or below them or pick whatever, right? And then there's this disconnect because there is no dialogue. There is no conversation. There is no communication of, this assumption, well, I make more, therefore these decisions are mine. Or I don't make as much, therefore, I should just sit back and wait. And you're not having this dialogue, right? If you're a woman that wants to have and be the head of the household because of what you do professionally, that's fine. But don't be upset when you run into another alpha male and he don't want to do that. You can't be mad about that clash. You got to find the piece that works for you.
Right? No, exactly. And I've heard people say, like, in conversations, like, you had these house kickbacks and you start talking about stuff, and she was like, well, if I make more, then like why is he gonna make the decisions on what we're gonna do? And I'm like, well, life is dynamic. When you like, how does that work? Let's say you lose your job or you go to, or he gets promoted, he makes more. Do you stop getting to make and say, like, how does that aspect work? And I think sometimes people take both sides of the historical context to what head of household means. So they look at like, well, one, I don't want it to be end all, be all, this person's running the show. I have value. I have intelligence. I can contribute. And then they also take it from, well, how the dynamic used to be. Well, I make more, so why can't I be like it was back then, because I make more. And I'm like...
And then the financial advisor in me will say, just because somebody make a lot of money doesn't mean they're good at utilizing and managing that money.
No, definitely. I mean, it's just, I think it's important to talk about and to hear... what that looks like. And also, if you guys can share a bit about how that, if it has changed now that you guys have kids. Because, I think Paul mentioned, was it Paul? I think you mentioned the fact that the way she's contributed more in certain aspects, you've seen it, especially when he was younger, as a caretaker for the child.
Yeah.
Because one, you were limited in what you could do, and two, like it's just a different dynamic that's being included in your relationship.
Yeah.
And so as fathers now, how do you guys look at that head of the household term or responsibility? Has it changed? You know, what does that mean to you guys now?
I mean, as it related to, the, rearing of my son, especially when he was young, like a baby, I just tried to do whatever boss lady told me, right? I'm not breastfeeding. I'm not, there's things that I just wasn't doing. And so I couldn't be, I wasn't in control of that. She told me what to do and I did it. Now, as he gets older, obviously it becomes a lot more 50-50 and probably will start to shade to me because I have a son and, we're going to go play sports together and we're going to have all that good time together. And, those things may continue to shift, but, whatever she needed is what I did. And I wasn't going to tell her how to breastfeed or how to nurse or anything like that. Yeah, like I like this pump better. It looks, whatever she told me, hey, I'm getting these bottles. Okay, cool. Great.
I mean, I think having a kid or having kids only demonstrates how it has to be a partnership because, like, you can't.
Agreed.
Yeah, if you out here making decisions on what's best for your wife's body, I mean, again, I'm not insinuating anybody's doing that, but it's like it's just not going to work realistically, especially when they're so young. But even having I have a son too, and like he loves both of us, but he loves his mom, and I can really see just the way that I love my mom, and I love my dad too, but I love my mom in ways that I don't love my dad. So he's going, my son, I already know he's going to do whatever for her, and their relationship is going to be key. And their time that they spend together versus the time we spend together is different. And the decisions that we make that will impact his growth and his development over the next couple of years is something that we try to do together. But we both have our strengths in terms of what we see his future being like, or we both have our strengths in certain aspects that he should be developing, we think he should be developing. So we always have those conversations, and I trust her on things, she trusts me on things, and so it doesn't really change. It changes in terms of the issues that may arise in terms of the household, but the process is the same, I guess, and even more important.
Yeah,
because now you have a responsibility to another human being, and whether you make more money or that shouldn't even be
it don't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
The child is both y'all's.
It don't matter anymore. I think the number one question that happens in our house is it's always going to be what do you think? Like, that's how our dialogues go. It's like you're talking about something and you bring up an idea, you bring up a point, you bring up something you want to do. What do you think? Right? There are no one-way decisions that really happen in the house unless it's me and, my decision to work out that day or what time, stuff that I do at work. But ultimately at the house, it's always a two-way decision that somebody has maybe more expertise in. But what do you think?
No, I mean, I think all the things you guys say make sense to me. And one of the things that I like to ask couples, especially couples that have kids, and don't feel free to chime in because I'm sure you guys want children. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting how you either receive the information or think about how you want to handle it. But
you can put your views on wax.
Yeah, put your views on wax prior to. But specifically, I always like to ask people that have children, especially in this day and age, how do you guys handle screen time on your kids? And it's something that you guys think about. And I'm sure each person has a specific view on it. And I give you an example. I met a guy. I have a friend, a kid. I think she's about. You gotta talk about kids. I say kids instead of things. You gotta talk about kids in terms of months. I think she's like 15 months. And he was like, "Yeah, we don't do any screen time. She watches no TV, nothing. When she goes sleep, then we'll turn the TV on." And it seemed like that was more of his decision than hers. And I think the wife trusted him or believed enough in his beliefs about that to say that's what we're going to do. But I think that's one of those topics that everyone's different in. And so what are your thoughts on how you guys handle and approach that? And Dorian, what do you think about as that's something that's gonna, you're gonna have to see in the foreseeable future at some point?
Man, this is
Keep it real.
Well, it's so this is the thing is with the like my son has a tablet. I mean, he has 2 tablets. Like there's literally one in the car, and then there's one in the house that's.
You're something privileged.
He's privileged as hell. And then if you talk about our phones, and then I have my own tab, like the screen's everywhere. But it's I mean, it's hard because the purpose of it, for us at least, it's like a break. You know, when you're like tired and you're just like, all right, this kid is literally jumping off the couch. Like today, this kid's jumping off the couch. He threw all the pillows off the couch. There's the covers here. He's running in the kitchen. He's throwing stuff on the wall. There's pizza on the wall. And it's like, all right.
Pizza on the walls.
Literally. Paul, you'll get there.
He's at the age where you should know pizza don't belong on the wall.
It's literally pizza on the wall.
Eat that.
And then it's like, all right. And I'm like, I just need to take a nap. Like, just like a 30-minute nap. So I can come do this. And, anyways. But, so you give him the tablet. And then he's just like, he's cool. And we try to put on some like educational stuff with things we think are educational. That's at least trying to get his words out, and that's gonna teach him some development. But he's becoming, or you can see like he's becoming dependent on it. Because then it's like you take it away, it's like he's crying, and I'm like, it's just a tablet. So we've had conversations where I'm like, look at like during the week. There's like no tablet at all. And maybe before he goes to bed, he can watch like one 20-minute show on Netflix, and that's that. No tablet, no screen time, no anything. And then on the weekends, we'll figure it out. But like, if we're gonna do the tablet, like we got to go to the park, we got to do other stuff to keep him active. But I give it to your friend that is saying no screen time at all. It's only gonna last.
She like we was at a friend's house and she picked up. She started pointing at the books. And then I was like, and then we gave her a book, and she started flipping the pages. I'm like, damn, I'm surprised she knows what a book is, and they were like, that's all she got. All she got are books. And you've all seen the social media thing where the kid was like had a book and was trying to swipe the book because they didn't know what it was, and so I'm fearful of that. And I just wonder, when you think about, like you say now, no screen time during the week, right? When you think about daycare and things of that nature, is that something you guys filter for, or is like whatever they do in daycare? I'm sure you have an understanding for, but we can't. You don't filter for no screen time at daycare, or is that something you do?
A quick add-on, like I think everybody has their rules about what they're gonna do and not do with their kid until their kid is going crazy.
Right.
It's like we said we were gonna do the no screen time thing, but my son will freeze if Sesame Street is on and stay exactly there, which means the dishes can get done. Something that has been trying to get done can actually get done. And like Anthony was saying, it's like, you play something that you hope is and you think is educational. But it's like when kids, my son is here now while we're taping. He's been at least in 7 of Chidozi's cabinets while this is going on, right?
I wish we had a screen to give him.
It's like, you just never know what's going on. And so it's like, I would love for that to be true, but my son knows books. He also knows Sesame Street. It's and he gets into everything. And that's what it is when you have a 16-month-year-old. That's just how it's going to go. And so to each its own, right? If that's your standard and you're able to pull it off, more power to you. Like, I congratulate you. But I'm not going to judge the parent that pulls up and has a tablet in the car either. Because until you have a kid and know how left some of these days can go, like, to each its own, Now,
unless if you got the ability to have like a full-time person watching, that's what the tablet is.
It's really a full-time person.
It's literally someone.
The tablet is the new
hands.
The other piece is that like you want them to be, they're probably too young where it really matters. Like technologically savvy. We're always like I have a cell phone, obviously. I have a tablet. When I work from home, I have 2 computer screens. I have my tablet, and then I have my cell phone out. Like screen time is like I'm in front of a screen all the time, which is not necessarily good. But it's hard. At some point, they're going to be exposed to it, and you want to limit it to a point where it's not being detrimental to them, and they're not so reliant on it. But yeah, I don't know what the balance is. It's hard. Every week is different.
Yeah, I'm so scared to have kids because, I mean, I think your kid, I mean, both under the age of 3. I don't think your son's 3 yet.
He's about to be, but
yeah. But you still have a lot of control over what he sees and doesn't see, and then you get to the point where they're 12. I watch some of these shows, like these kids in middle school and high school, and what's going on Snapchat and TikTok and all these other devices or apps that I don't know about. People, it's just, I'm like, how do you navigate that as a parent where you want to still enough sense in them to like do what's right, but they're gonna do some dumb shit either way and not be too overprotective. It's just, more power to y'all. I pray for y'all every day, but I just don't. I don't know how it's gonna happen. I think part of what you guys said is like you take it every week as it comes.
Well, you figure it out. I mean, we were talking about this before the podcast started. There is no perfect time to have a kid, and whoever tells you they're waiting for it is not going to have kids. Like, there's just no perfect time. There's always something going on, be it in your world related to work, in your partner's life. There's always something going on. There's just never a perfect time until the day that person is brought into your life, until they're born. And so, you kind of figure it out as you're going. He should be asleep right now. He should be taking a nap, but he's not going to. He's not going to.
They never do on the weekend.
Yeah,
daycare is like they on that schedule.
Saturday. Yeah.
When they know they're with dad or mom or both, they are up.
He's like, ooh, this doesn't happen often. Yeah, I'm not with these guys all the time.
He knows it's Saturday. I had a coffee earlier, and I think he smelled it and decided, we going all day today, Dad. We're going all day today.
No, I mean, I think it's, for the listeners, forgive all the mishaps, but I think part of what I want to show is the reality of when you're a parent, and this is life. And so I wanted to make sure that was fully felt as you guys are listening to this. I wanted to ask you a bit about fatherhood and how it's changed your perspective, but I think we talked about that a bit in terms of just how you guys see the world. If there's anything that's, significant that you guys want to share, happy to give you guys time for that. If not, we can keep going.
Well, I think add on to what Anthony was talking about when he was talking about his son, and you can just see how much, he loves his mom. Like, my son is that way too. And when you become a father, I think you appreciate that so much more, because a lot of times, how boys treat their moms is how they're going to treat women once they get to that age. And so to just see how much he loves on his mom and has a good time with her and plays and, kisses and hugs on her, like, it gives you a view of how they're going to be when you're not there to watch them all the time. And I've heard people say that before and it didn't mean anything. Mm. And then I watched it and you see it and it just becomes a totally different thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's fun to watch. Like, I'm perfectly okay with me not being his number one. Eventually he gonna want to throw ball, go throw the baseball or something like that, and I'm there for it. But I'm okay not being his first go-to right now, because I just think it's important for him to have that connection and that love with my wife and with his mom.
It's funny. I wish I would have.
Saying mom right now.
I wish I recorded this video, recorded this podcast as we all try to talk and see where he's at, and make sure he's not breaking. And my house is not childproof, and so everybody's on alert as we.
What you will learn as a parent is neither is yours. It's childproof, and as you think you go, it's not.
Kids just like a magnets to things that's gonna hurt them. Oh, it's like, I see these cords. I don't care if they're gonna electrify me. they're colorful. So yeah, keeping it going. And talking about being a parent, and I always wanted to just get perspective on, as a man, what does it mean in terms of, I don't want to call it your responsibility, but just in general, like, how has it been enduring? How you think? What are the challenges you think you may face, if any, trying to support your wife as a mother and also as a person that has a career? And part of why I bring this up is I have a group meet with a whole bunch of guys from business school, and one guy, his wife, they had 2 kids very closely in age, and so she was stay at home for about 3 years or 4 years with the kids, and so she's just getting back to working. I think it was a group decision. She wanted to go back to work, but he's noticed that like it's paying a toll on her. That transition is paying a toll on her. He's trying to figure out, how do I support now, because it's different when she was just at home. And so it made me think of that question. You know, you guys, how do you support your wives, understanding that this kid and her being a mother is a certain way I have to support her, but also her career is something that's important to her, and I need to make sure I'm there for her too, and giving her, whether it's space, time, opportunity, you know, peace, to be able to be her best self there. Like, how has it been navigating that? Or you anticipate going to navigate?
Yeah, let Dorian. I want Dorian to kick it off. I want to hear what
I would say for us, you know, we don't have children yet. So it's at the point of like, I see her stressed at work. And it's like, how do I help try to alleviate some of that stress and, you know, keep her focused, keep her motivated? Because, you know, I tell her all the time, I said, you know, I will take on the burden of the things here so you can focus on what you need to get done at work. I'm like, you know, if it requires you to spend more time at work so you can get things done, just get it done. I will take on the burden. I'll make sure everything is done here. So it's just more or less just, you know, recognizing, okay, you're in the season where, you know, things are tough. You're in the season where you seem to be more stressed. How can I help? And it's really like figuring out, just having her vocalize it. You know, You know, she kind of internalizes a lot. So it's really just figuring out ways to have her open up and then tell me, and then figure out ways how to help.
Yeah. No, I mean, what about you guys? Yeah.
So I'll add on to that. I mean, so this won't air live, but I mean, my son is here right now. Part of that is my wife is on call, which means if I was here without the baby and she gets called in for delivery, he's going crazy.
And studying.
Yeah, and studying. My wife has boards in February, and it's one of the big exams that she has to do in medicine. And so, you know, we had this discussion probably a month and a half ago, and I was like, you know, I know that you want to be all in on our son as much as you can, but you need that time to go prepare for boards and do what you got to do. And so, like, now, I do all pickups. For all those that, you know, are looking for babysitters, don't hire Brandon.
That's going to be it. You out here giving government names.
Automatic edit. But
he's learning.
You know, but so I do all pickups now. All pickups. Now, my wife loves picking up my son because you get there. It's one of those moments that you see like on like TV on Hallmark or something like that. And you get to the door and the kid runs to you and you're like, whoa, right? My wife loves that. But she needs that extra time to study and all that kind of stuff. So I do all pickups, which means I needed to make an alteration in my schedule to make sure that I'm done by 5 to go pick him up, take care of what needs to be done at home for that time being so she can get some extra study time, right? As well as some stuff in the morning so she can study in the morning. And that's a relationship, right? It's give and take, right? When she finishes, she's going to kick me off of pickups because she enjoys it, right? It's just something that needed to be done. But that is a relationship. There's going to be movement. There's going to be changes. And that's just how it is. It's not going to stay the same. Relationships are dynamic. And when you add a kid, they just become crazy dynamic because things are always moving, right? And so, you know, if you're marrying a professional woman and y'all are going to grow a family, you need to be aware that at some point you're going to have to step into a shoe that you didn't think or that you may not have thought you were going to step into, right? Depending on what your view is of what your role was with that child. Right? You might have to do more. You might need to be a part of pickups and drop-offs. You might need to change all the diapers. But that's raising a kid. You know, it is what it is.
And I think that, you know, this is a bit, this is a
give and take.
Yeah, it definitely is about give and take. And I think that is some of the, before I let you, I cut you off, man, but before I let you chime in, I think that's what you know, I think I lose sight of that. And I think people lose sight of that when they're dating because you look at it, you don't look at it like, damn, okay, when I see this person, what sacrifices am I going to have to make for this person? You look at like, okay, what is this relationship going to be like in its ideal state, right? When you don't got a whole bunch of stuff going on, you're not having to think about some of those dynamics that are shifting but you want someone that you love enough that you want to be able to be there for them in the most significant ways. And it just makes me think about like some of the responsibility, I think, as a man that we have is to push and challenge our partners, even if that means conflict, even if that means that like it's not the easy way out. And I pointed two examples. I know Ant, you talked about last time how you knew it was important for your wife to have time for y'all's relationship because of y'all only at that time only knew each other for you're still very, very new in terms of the amount of time you guys have known each other relative to like Paul that they were friends probably for the amount of time that you guys knew each other. And so even though she probably wasn't happy about it, you kind of forced, and it might have caused some tension to make sure that you guys traveled without the child at first to create that norm. And now y'all going on a trip without the child is a lot easier than it was probably when you first pushed that on her. In the same way, Paul, we talked about before offline how you know how important this exam is to your wife, and although she wants to do all these things with the child, she needs to focus, and so that was creating tension in the relationship for you to be like, hey, I recognize that this is important and you need to do it, even though you may not want to. I'm going to force the issue so that you, in your career, where you need to be despite what you want. How is like navigating those? Like, like probably coming into it, there's going to be a fight. This is going to be like, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun, but it's in the best interest of that person and y'all as a unit. Like, what is that like? And do you feel like a responsibility to push, even though it's not going to be easy?
Go ahead.
Well, before I answer, because I feel like I'm compelled to say this, if you ever want to feel the joy and happiness of, like, if you could think about your happiest moment and you can bottle it up, it's picking up your kid from daycare.
Like, for real. You know what I'm talking about. I know. It's real life, bro. Like,
I'm telling you, man, you walk into that room and their eyes light up.
You were like the MVP.
Bro, I'm so serious. Nobody has ever looked at you like this,
man.
When you pick your kid up from daycare.
I pick up my son every once a week. And it's like, man, it's something else. So
y'all made me want to have a kid just to test it out. Bro, I'm telling you. I don't know if it's worth it financially, but I just want to test it out.
Because I'll creep up and not creep, but I'll look. So I want to look and be like, all right, what is he doing? Is he acting up? And he just, he in there playing and he having fun with his friends. And you walk in and all of a sudden he catches, you catch it. And then he's just like
beelining,
man. He's ready to go. He's like, I'm going home with my dad. Anyway, so
hey, I co-sign on that, man.
But on the real though, like, I think like sacrifice is like the biggest thing. Like you making so many different sacrifices for yourself in terms of your career, your relationship, and not in a bad way, but then also with your significant other. Like for my wife, I think she's made a lot of sacrifices in her career. Like, and it was completely, her decision in terms of taking a step back in terms of what she wanted to do. She's in higher education and has been in athletics for a while. She's a phenomenal athlete, or she was in college at a very high level, and was a coach at a very high level, like coach of the year and all this stuff. But it was very time consuming. And she made a decision that she wanted to take a step back and still in higher education, but just not coaching as well. But and part of that too is to start a family. So we, in terms of like Paul said, it's like, picking up my son from daycare or taking him to swim class or whatever it is that needs to get done and trying to maneuver on my schedule. And it's like, I'll wake up at 4 a.m., go to the office.
4 a.m.?
Yeah. Like,
so he can ride the Peloton and make me look bad.
I'm rolling over, getting my second dream that I'm going to remember at that time.
So, I check Ant's Peloton and like when I wake up and he'd hit a 2-hour ride or something like that.
And look, he be making
me feel bad about life.
I get the alerts on my watch. I'm like, man had 2 rings. I'm at a quarter ring.
Wait a minute, because
It's only 9 a.m. What am I doing wrong?
Side note is health is wealth, man. I'm trying, no fat dad 2020. So I'm trying to be healthy.
Dad bods me in. Like,
but like, I would get to work when I was at a law firm, not anymore. But I'll get to work early so I could get in a 10 to 12 hour day and still leave at like 4 or 5 o'clock, so I can go pick up my son or whatever, because my wife either had to be at work or she had to do something related to work, because her schedule was not as flexible as mine. So and I'm hoping down the line, I know she still has a lot of career goals, and as we build and grow our family, we'll just, it's a balancing act, to the extent that you can have balance, and we're going to continue doing that. But, I know at some point she's going to be like, all right, we're at a point where that she can start taking some more risk or chances in her career, and we'll reassess on what that means for us. And I'm hoping I can support her in whatever way that she needs, because I know that she has a skill set that is, that would be beneficial to a lot of organizations out there in terms of what she wants to do. And it's just a matter of her taking that step and being committed to it, as long as we have everything else in place in our household. So, and we'll get there, but it's going to be sacrifices on both our ends. And it might be waking up early. It might be, even telling your job, this is the extent that you can do. I mean, it's a lot of different things. Or it might be, it's you're going to sacrifice something in your life, but it's not in a negative way, because it's going to bring something, or it always has for me, something better in the end. But you just got to be willing to think outside yourself and think long term instead of short term. So.
No, I mean, I get it. And I think that's part of what marriage is all about. I wish we could keep talking, but we've gone over time, and I got to end it right here. Please listen and be on the lookout for the next episode, where next time we talk about how do you know when someone's worth it, and the important things to look for in a partner. I'm going to have Dorian, Ant, and Paul back. We're going to keep the conversation going. We're going to answer more of your questions and go deeper on some of the topics that you guys are asking us to. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Think Love Wife, and subscribe to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast on all major platforms. Make sure you tell your friends, your friends, your family, your cousins, your aunts and aunts about the podcast, and let's grow our base. Thank you for listening, and I hope the conversation keeps going.